Hey everyone, I'm Amelia. Today, we're talking about Amazon, a company that started in a garage selling books online and somehow became one of the most powerful empires in the world. But behind the fast deliveries and trillion-dollar success, there's a much deeper story about ambition, strategy, and controversy. So, how did Jeff Bezos actually build Amazon? This is The Rise and Fall, Amazon. In 1964, Jeff Bezos was born into a quiet, mid-century American suburb. Born into a complicated family situation, he was later adopted by his Cuban stepfather, taking the last name Bezos. From a very young age, he showed a rare, highly analytical intelligence. While other kids might have thought about standard business or local success, his mind was already locked on the cosmos. He dreamed about space exploration and building systems that reached beyond the planet. That early fixation on vast, complex structures became the blueprint he would use decades later to build an empire on Earth.
In the mid-1990s, the value of a Wall Street career was tied to uncovering patterns. You sifted through data to find a trend before the rest of the market could react. Jeff Bezos was a successful product of this analytical environment, reaching vice president at D.E. Shaw by age 30. In 1994, he spotted a statistic that changed his trajectory. The internet was growing at 2,300% per year. That specific figure represented an unpopulated digital frontier, a space expanding too quickly for traditional rules to apply. He realized the real opportunity lay in building the first toll booth for this new territory, even if it meant walking away from a high-paying finance career. He left the East Coast and drove towards Seattle, writing his business plan in the passenger seat along the way. Books were his first target because they are uniform commodities. They ship easily, look identical on a screen, and require no physical inspection. The cross-country business plan used books as a scalable test for a global distribution system, a logistical foundation designed to eventually support an everything store. This initial retail storefront provided the revenue and customer data needed to build an entirely new logistics network. The company launched in 1995 from a cramped Seattle garage, funded by $10,000 of his parents' savings. Bezos enforced a strict directive: get big fast. The strategy involved operating at a loss to acquire users and scale at a pace that competitors couldn't match. To build trust with a skeptical public, he introduced customer reviews. It was a calculated move to prove transparency in an era when most people were still afraid to shop online. When the company went public in 1997, it had yet to turn a profit, asking investors to bet on future dominance instead of current earnings. Early Amazon functioned as a massively funded experiment in conditioning human consumer behavior, prioritizing market share over traditional accounting. The 2000 dot-com crash decimated the first wave of internet startups. Amazon's stock price crashed from $100 to just $6. The company was on the edge of total bankruptcy. Survival required a total internal overhaul. Bezos cut costs and restructured the company, realizing that relying on third-party shippers was a fatal vulnerability. He pivoted the business towards building proprietary fulfillment centers, giving Amazon direct control over its own supply chain. Surviving the stock crash turned a vulnerable website into a hardened physical logistics monopoly. With the creation of Marketplace, independent sellers began renting space on Amazon's platform, effectively routing their entire businesses through the company's network.
In 2005, the launch of Prime added a psychological layer to this network, using free shipping to ensure absolute consumer loyalty. The integration of Prime, Marketplace, and hardware like the Kindle turned the company into a central host for the retail market. Managing this massive operation required an internal computing architecture that didn't yet exist. Amazon eventually began renting out this excess server capacity to other companies, a move that created Amazon Web Services. AWS now serves as the backbone of the modern web, powering everything from Netflix's streaming library to NASA's mission data. By prioritizing the invisible network over the products themselves, the company made its infrastructure an unavoidable part of modern digital life. The company operated on a strict philosophy. Decisions were made based entirely on cold, hard data, removing human intuition and emotional attachments from the process. Bezos established a rigid mandate that defined the company's expansion. Your margin is my opportunity. This chart shows exactly how that works. A profit margin is the amount by which revenue from sales exceeds costs. While traditional businesses relied on high margins as a financial cushion, Amazon systematically targeted those wide margins, slashing its own prices to capture the market and erode competitors' profits. Operating on razor-thin margins allowed Amazon to function like a self-reinforcing, highly optimized machine. Every dollar saved was fed back into lowering prices and accelerating delivery. Amazon's global dominance was the predictable, mathematical result of long-term thinking and an absolute obsession with efficiency. Once the digital optimization machine was running, Amazon breached the barrier into physical retail. By acquiring major brands like Whole Foods Market, the company merged its online infrastructure with the physical storefronts in our neighborhoods. At the same time, the company expanded its reach into consumer leisure. With platforms like Twitch and Amazon Prime Video, it captured hours of daily attention and media consumption. Through smart home technology like Amazon Alexa, the company's data-gathering apparatus took up residence quietly inside millions of private homes. Amazon was no longer a website you actively visit. By surrounding consumers with groceries, media, and smart devices, it became an omnipresent utility living alongside us. This massive scale came with a steep cost. The relentless pricing machine systematically wiped out major legacy competitors, driving giants like Toys R Us out of the market. The destruction crossed multiple sectors. The very first industry Amazon targeted, books, eventually saw the collapse of cultural mainstays like the Borders bookstore chain. Inside the machine, the human toll was severe. To maintain those legendary tree-based shipping speeds, the floor workers packing and sorting goods faced notoriously harsh and grueling physical conditions. Even the independent third-party sellers using the platform were safe. Amazon faced serious accusations of harvesting their proprietary sales data to manufacture and promote its own competing products right next to theirs. The frictionless one-click convenience enjoyed at the front door is directly subsidized by grueling physical labor and a highly aggressive anti-competitive ecosystem behind the scenes. Eventually, the sheer monopolistic scale of this operation triggered alarm. Federal regulatory bodies launched major antitrust investigations into the company's business practices. This mounting government pressure culminated in Bezos being summoned to Washington, where he was forced to testify directly before the U.S. Congress to defend his empire. The system had scaled into a force that directly challenged the authority of the state itself. By 2021, the global empire was fully self-sustaining. Knowing the machine could run itself, Bezos stepped down as CEO and handed the reins to Andy Jassy. With his earthly business secured, Bezos pivoted his immense resources back to his original childhood ambition, his space company, Blue Origin. His goals there mirror his early focus on massive systems. He intends to move heavy, polluting industries off Earth entirely and build massive floating space colonies. With his automated system now powering the global economy, Bezos is free to direct his attention toward building infrastructure beyond Earth's atmosphere. But down here on the ground, the physical volume of Amazon's logistics continues to surge through the arteries of our cities. That physical delivery network is integrated at an individual door-to-door level, touching nearly every household in the country. When you look at the sheer density of those routes, it's clear that Amazon has become the foundational physical infrastructure of the modern economy. As the ultimate product of ruthless efficiency, we are left to wonder, is this highly optimized machine the peak of our technological future or a threat to the entire global economy?